Welcome to another another episode. God damn it! Welcome to another episode of
What the
Now
fauna?
you're supposed to say it, god damn it! What the fauna?
What the fauna? Yeah.
A wonderful show, not for kids.
Yeah. We will be.
Yeah, not for kids. Today,
We'll
not
be
for kids.
cussing and
Never for kids. If
talking
you
about sexual
haven't
things.
figured that out,
Yes.
if you don't know this isn't for kids yet, we're on episode like 9. Let me tell you, we're gonna go from the last episode talking about a double penised animal to another episode talking about another double penised animal.
There's a lot of double penis animals.
There really are. I'm finding that out. I actually found myself, my search history is, I found myself on a website today to research this creature called Giant Lizard Penises of the World. That's a website. Yep. I didn't stick around to see if they sold duplicates, but I was like, well, kind of needed to see this. So anyway, welcome to What the Fauna, where we teach you about an animal and hopefully make you laugh too.
Yep.
I don't know which one's more important.
That's Genevieve.
Yes.
Or Jen. Yeah.
Jen. John.
Jen.
Hi. And my co-host is
Whitney.
Whitney.
Or Whit.
Who is kind of the brains.
Yeah.
No, he's good.
I drink
Whitney's
and
resume.
I know things, as the great Tyrion says.
Drink and you know things. He knows a lot. He knows a lot about penises.
Animal penises are a weird thing.
Yes. And the more I learn, the more I kind of go, human penises are probably some of the weirder ones. We think they're not because we're used to it.
More docile. I mean, there are like beetles and insects that literally they're like, oh, the female's going to try to resist. So they just stab their penis into the abdomen side. Like they just make a hole and put it in there.
Ouch. And then there are other ones who just rip off their own penises and throw it at the female because she's so goddamn frightening they don't want to get near that.
And then some that just melt into the body, leaving nothing but their testicles.
So, you really do know if she's kind of a skank, there's lots of little testicles hanging off her.
Yeah. I mean, hey, she's hot.
To them, that could be a badge of honor. I don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But today's animal does not do necessarily those things.
No.
The males do have a double penis.
A lot of things have double penises.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding. So we talked about kangaroos last time that have kind of like, I had to look this up, more of a shaft and then 2 penises kind of coming off of it.
Yeah, but it's like it's like one big thing and then like a little kind, as I said, it's like a carrot and then there's like, imagine like this, the little root. Like if there's one little root coming off the end of that carrot.
2 little roots.
2 little roots. Yeah.
2 little roots. This one has 2 separate penises.
Yes.
It can alternate between them and often does. Yep.
Pins. Most squamatas are like that, which that's basically snakes and lizards. So for every there's the same amount of penises on snake penises in the world as there are snakes. I believe that's a Hank Green quote.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, if we're assuming a 50-50 ratio
between male and female, it's pretty close.
I'll go with it. Many snakes are there snake penises. All right.
Yep.
So if you haven't guessed, which you probably haven't because that's kind of been vague so far, we're going to talk about
we're going to talk about a lizard, a very big lizard.
A big lizard.
Big lizard.
The biggest lizard that's alive today.
Yes. Currently alive. I did have to look it up because we might as well just say the Komodo Dragon.
The Komodo Dragon, not the kimono dragon. If you type that in, you'll get a different.
You'll get a whole. Ooh.
No, I did. I actually typed. I did kimono because I was just not thinking, and I got some delightful looking dinosaur looking creatures in beautiful Japanese kimonos.
That sounds
quite delightful.
A fun little afternoon.
It was. So Komodo.
Komodo, as in the
Named
island
after
Komodo.
actually, I don't know if it's named after the island or the island is named after the
It's
dragon.
named after the island because there's like 5 different animals called Komodo this, Komodo that.
Okay, okay.
They're all just were initially found on that island. Yeah.
Hey, like I said, Westerners are not the best at naming things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have to
Um,
look it up because this guy, it is the biggest. He's like basically like 9 feet from tip of nose to tip of tail. Usually we're at
mhm.
150. But I did have to look up.
Some can get up to, I think the Guinness Book of World Records has the biggest at like 11 feet and 350
That sounds
pounds.
350 pounds.
But
That's a fat one. Holy
yeah,
cow.
it could probably we'll go through it later, but it'll probably
Probably
be
8.
just after it ate. Yeah.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
had to have eaten, which
These
that we'll
guys
talk about that because that's
gorged.
amazing. But I
Actually,
did
the
have to look it up.
Pigeon Purge. Hmm.
They are monitor lizards, and the
Mhm.
largest lizard that has been found, because dinosaurs are not lizards, they are reptiles, but they're not lizards.
They're
Um,
dinosaurs.
they're dinosaurs.
Mm.
The largest one was actually what was it? It was like 23 feet long, and they estimated it at 1,300 pounds. And basically, it's just
A lizard or the Komodo?
this is the lizard. It's called the
Okay.
Megalania prisca, which is basically a fossil of an Australian monitor lizard.
Actually, so that leads
So,
us right into one of the fun things is the Komodo dragons are found primarily on 5 islands in
yep,
Indonesia at the moment,
yep,
but, there have been recently they've been finding fossils of them as well as their bigger cousins, I guess, maybe,
yeah.
in
It could be
Australia.
them or other
Yeah.
Komodo dragon like
Actually,
species.
they found one in, Eastern Australia that so far is identical to the current day Komodo dragon. They've
Okay,
estimated the skeleton
at
is
least fossil wise, yeah,
yeah, fossil-wise,
fossil
is
wise.
it's 3,000 or yeah, 300,000 years ago.
Which actually
Um,
that wouldn't put it that long, so it could
yeah,
be that, yeah.
and these
But
guys are amazing swimmers. They find them swimming between the islands all the
yep,
time.
that yeah. So
I mean,
that
so why the fuck not?
we call that the line of Wallachia because Wallace, and there's like 5 lines in biogeography where basically like most for
Okay,
the
can I pause for a second and make
yeah.
fun of you? Because I didn't even know biogeography was, a separate science. That's such God.
I that was my
You're
favorite
so
course.
lame.
Well, that was one of my favorite courses in
Biogeography, Jesus
college.
Christ.
I loved it. All it does is take geographic systems, puts it on a thing, and takes biological systems and puts it on a geographic thing, and you put it together.
Did I
That's
tell you
how
I
it.
get called nerd quite often? I get called nerd a lot. I'm calling you a nerd.
I accept this. I accept this. It was my favorite class. Uh, Rob Wallace was my instructor. He was fantastic. Great guy.
Oh, for those
Love.
who missed it, Whitney and I went to college together,
Oh yeah, we didn't talk
a
about it this
little while ago, just a few years,
time.
20.
uh,
Yeah.
2 moons.
Okay, no, it sounds fun. It
Yeah,
sounds fun.
but so basically, they have zoogeographic region or biogeographic regions because there's also
Oh,
plant
let me guess,
people.
zoography is another science. Oh, good.
Zoogeography is just the subset of biogeography that only focuses on the animals on the geographic system.
I had to ask. Now you all have to know as well, because I have
Right.
to know now you have to.
So the world is kind of divided. There's like groups of like where we have grouped all the animals. And we're like, okay, this is kind of like a line division. This type of these grouping of animals, they tended to not cross this line. So the line of Wallachia, which also there's actually like 8 guys who came up with a similar line. I only know the line of Wallachia because that was the only one on the test that I had to know.
That's a
He
cool
was the
name
most
too. I
famous
mean,
guy.
Malaysia, I'd go with that. I mean, it's better
Yeah.
than like I don't want to insult anyone, but
Anyway,
yeah, that's yeah.
it's but
So that's
basically
a line what?
that's the line that
Near
divides.
Indonesia? Kind of
It
like farther
divides
north?
Australia from Asia. And so
Okay.
basically they put that line there. They're like, okay, anything past this tends to follow in this group of animals. And by
And
group,
stay
I
in
mean
this
just like
zone.
we're just talking like speciation line. Like these
Okay.
species don't tend to cross this line. The problem is Australasia area is very tough to determine because there's so many islands and there's a lot of island hopping
For
happening.
everyone who's worried and wondering where Australasia is, think of the game Risk. It's that purple spot that's
Yeah,
really good. you get all your armies there and you build up and you build up and
You
you
get
just
the thing you gotta hold.
massive army and you unleash it.
Well, that's the
That's
thing. Yeah, that's the
Australasia,
one you want to hold if you want to hold on to Australia.
right? It's
The
the
only
best spot
way
in the
in.
world.
So anyway,
Okay,
yeah.
so they tend to kind of stay in that. So Risk is kind of
Yeah, but the
a
thing is,
biogeographical
around
map.
that line,
Little did we know.
if you're near that line, that has a lot of like weird overlaps and weird speciation events, just because lots of island hopping. So that makes
Lots of
sense that
island
there's a bunch of weirdness going on out there.
hopping. Okay.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
but
so the
yeah,
islands the Komodo dragons currently live
right.
on, there's about 5 of them. And it's actually what's been happening is, there's a Komodo dragon sanctuary that covers, like, 4
Kimono?
of the island.
Oh,
Huh?
a kimono dragon sanctuary.
Yes. It what did I say? Did I say kimono again?
Kimono.
God damn it.
Now I've just got an image of the
Komodo!
sanctuary of a bunch of lizards and kimonos again.
Na, 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 na.
It's
It was
this
beautiful.
whole like,
Anyway,
oh
so
god,
this
what
is
is it?
beautiful.
Geisha.
It's just
It's like a
all
geisha.
these all these islands, a lot of people still live there and stuff, but they're all dedicated to keeping the Komodo dragon population alive and well.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. So as you guys, that Indonesia area, it's kind of forest, savanna type
Yeah.
forest.
I will say, since you touched on the whole like conservation of them, though, they
Mhm.
did just recently get updated in 2021 from
Uh,
vulnerable to endangered. And
sh-
can anybody guess why?
oh,
They're
I
much
know why. Oh, I'm sorry.
why?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but the
There's
main
one
reason
reason
seems
they
to
got
be
upgraded for.
that well, I would guess the low dropping of the population is why they got
Nope.
upgraded. But
Nope.
um, no, 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 it's not okay. It's because the recent studies have shown the male to female
Nope.
ratio is 1 to 3.
Nope.
So there's like, oh really? Because
Nope.
that
Because
was
they
what I was
no.
reading was the egg-laying female population is dramatically lower.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
Which there is a reason for that too, and actually it still has to play in with what the issue
it
is.
does. It's called the guys are assholes and
Nope.
keep eating the chicks. They kind of do. They
Easier
kind
than
of do.
that.
Easier than that. What?
The thing that's fucking everything.
Oh, wait, we're not supposed to call it global warming. We're not supposed. What are we calling it
Yeah,
again?
climate change.
Climate change.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
they're literally over the next by 2040, they're going to lose 40% of their habitat, just flat out, because all the islanders are losing that much land mass
As the
within the next
oceans
20 years.
rise,
The
because
ocean's rising.
and
So
for all those who don't believe in it, I live in Chicago. It's 70 degrees out today and
it was
raining.
80. It was almost 80 here today, and then
Yeah.
I went to the board meeting that delayed us to record this.
Mhm.
Literally, by the time I went to go get gas, it had dropped down to 20 degrees. It's now
It's supposed
snowing.
to be 20 tomorrow in Chicago in
Yeah,
February.
it's hitting here,
70
going
and
to you.
raining tomorrow, ice storm and 20.
I was like,
Fuck
God,
you.
Lord. Like,
Um,
literally, I had the door open,
Climate
dogs were
change,
going in and out.
instability.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so
No.
climate change is basically fucking them. There's literally nothing between that. There is some other new things, but really the primary thing is that climate change. Like,
Okay.
basically, the population has been stable, stable, stable.
Yeah, we've been
But
doing great. Like
every single model says at best they're going to lose 40% of their habitat.
at best.
At
This is
best.
gonna be worse. So they
Yes.
are solitary. You're not gonna find herds of them. They don't really like each other.
Um,
And I gotten
Not quite true.
that they don't like each other?
No, they hang out together all the time.
You know what? I had
They
this
go into feeding
discussion with
frenzies
someone
and
today.
mass. They do a
It
mass feeding frenzy thing.
well, a bit, yeah, but they do definitely the bigger ones do get the lion's share, so to speak.
Oh yeah, 100%. But when you go to an area where there's Komodo dragons, you're not going to find one. You're going to find
Oh,
a bunch.
definitely
Now
not.
they're not like pack animals working together,
Definitely not.
but they tend to hang out, and they also do make friend groups. Like there's like I one of the most cutest things I ever saw was a Komodo dragon that had a bond with one of the females. And just would always lay on top of her.
Aw.
Like, I
Because
just
I was
cuddle with
reading,
you.
they are playful. Like, you
Yeah,
don't think about these giant lizards being playful, but in zoos and things, they've been observed playing with frisbees, playing with balls. There's
yeah.
no reason they should be. They're just kind of playful.
They're curious animals. There's a whole thing with regards to reptile cognition that has been changing over the past 15 years. I actually, when I was researching this, I ran across a zookeeper talking about stuff, and I was about to go away because I knew that it was all going to be just surface level stuff. But then I was just listening to their talk, and I'm like, when the fuck was this? Because none of this is what we say about them now. I was like, oh, this is
Yeah,
from
we're gonna
2005.
hopefully distill a lot of myths today about them.
Yeah. I like to consider them more like cats as far as their sociability. They have their own areas,
Yeah.
but they group up sometimes, especially if there's a primary feeding location, i.e., a big
Mm.
carcass that they all can share. Then they will definitely partake in feeding frenzy off of it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so I mean,
But yeah,
well, excuse me. Since we started talking about their food, sorry.
yeah, we both have the
Yeah,
hacks,
the ick.
the ick.
So they are apex predators, which is kind of unusual, having a lizard the apex predator of your ecosystem, but they
Mhm.
are. That is very unusual. They just kind of run the show, and in their area, they really don't have like huge competition.
No.
Um, there was supposedly like some dwarf elephants that lived in that area long ago.
Oh, those guys, yes.
Yeah, they killed them
Yep.
and ate them probably. But they really
Humans
don't
did
have
that
any
too.
predators. If they end up in an area that has some really big cats, cats typically tend to win, but in this
Yeah,
area where they
by
are,
big cats, we're talking like lions and leopards and
yeah,
stuff like
big,
that.
big cats.
But the thing is,
Um,
most people things don't want to mess with them because it's just too risky.
it's risky and they're kind of gross. They will eat anything.
Anything.
Anything. It doesn't matter if it's still bleeding out or it's been dead a couple weeks. They really don't
Oh,
care. They're known
they
as
are
the
the full-on
grave
scavengers. Yeah.
robbers.
They love it
Humans,
and they love it rotten too. They really don't
yeah.
eat things
The
if
meat's
it's
starting
too
to break
fresh.
down. Kind of easy.
They are similar to like when you're feeding them, they're similar to like turkey vultures. You have to like let the food rot before they'll actually get interested in it.
Yeah, they like
Just a
the
little bit.
smell. So
Not too rotten.
the little ones tend to eat smaller lizards,
Yep.
insects, birds, whatever they can get. They're usually in the trees.
Yep. So
And the bigger ones, anything.
anything they get their
Anything they
hands
can
on,
get a
and
hold on.
the bigger ones will even do ambush tactics. But actually,
Mhm.
the adults versus the kids actually have two completely different hunting patterns. Um,
Yes.
so the babies, as you said, they will go hunt, but usually they're more just opportunistic. They don't like
Mhm.
go chase things down. Whereas the adults will like lay in wait, or they will hunt something down for a while, and just very
So what I
methodically.
was reading was that the babies, and we're talking like newborn hatchlings up until they're about 2 years old. They usually
Yeah,
stay in the trees. It's safer from them because Komodo dragons will totally eat young.
yeah. And do you
Totally.
know what do you know how the babies have learned? They have an instinct to avoid getting eaten.
Which is amazing. I mean, this is there are other creatures in the animal kingdom who do eat their young, but
Yeah.
none of them that seem to have formed such, I don't know, like cannibalism for them is like a real thing.
Oh no,
Like the
no.
babies have
Hold it.
strategies to get away from the
I'm gonna get
cat.
rid of this myth because
Uh-huh.
that's a myth. That was just something people believed for a long time. As we started researching more cannibalism, it turns out
Uh-huh.
cannibalism in nature is very common,
Well, yeah,
very
no, it's
popular.
very common, but at the same time, I was thinking about this today. Um, I believe like a hyena would probably eat another dead hyena, but I'm
100%.
not sure would it kill it to eat it.
Yes. Yes, that has
Really?
been
Okay,
recorded. Yes.
that's surprising because I was kind of listening. I was trying to think of like humans are like most of us. There are a
I've
few exceptions that we read about in
there
special
there's
shows, but
recordings of
most of us are
kangaroos.
mildly cannibalistic.
There's recordings of kangaroos eating kangaroos.
Wow, that's pretty intense because they're herbivores. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, because so I was putting things on a scale of
Deer
cannibalism
eating
today,
they
and I
have
put
records of
Komodo
deer eating.
dragons pretty high up there. Like, they're
Yeah,
not stalking each other, but, like,
they're opportunistic. Literally every lizard and every snake will do that.
well, okay.
Pretty much. It's not as uncommon as people think. Birds do it all the time. Basically, resources are scarce, so if they have an opportunity, they'll do it. Spiders are way top up there. Spiders will, except for the wolf spider, they tend to be better about their
Okay.
young. those types.
I mean, not to
It's
say
all
that
about
the
the amount of
Komodo
care they give.
dragon don't like their young. The mothers actually so
Yes,
this is fun. Komodo dragons are kinda hard to tell males from females. Usually, they do it by size.
for
They're kinda
humans.
hard to tell individuals apart.
Yes.
But I watched a video, ladies, of these researchers going, "You see that female there? Yeah, she's got some good, nice fat on her. She's gonna lay eggs soon." I was like, "Fuck you." I'm just imagining alien researchers looking at Americans going, "They must be very fertile. They are ready to lay their eggs."
Yes.
Because so the female kimonos will bulk up. A lot of it's in the tail. Because after they lay their eggs, they will guard the nest for like what is it, like the first 6 months or so. They'll
Yeah.
guard the nest. It's usually like a 9-month incubation. They dig
Right.
a nice big hole, or they steal someone else's nest, bury the eggs, and then they usually mate. I guess it's like in the winter time, August, September, and it's not until the wet season, which is kind of more the
Right.
spring, that the babies begin to hatch. So the mom kind of leaves for that
Funny.
last couple months. She's protecting them much she can. She's usually lost a lot of weight, and then she takes off to go
Correct.
feed herself. And the babies come out to kind of like the harvest of all the insects and everything, kind of coming back to life at the wet season.
Right.
But there is some protection for a while. Like, I give them, I'll give them a mama skills. I give them like a
I
3
mean,
out of
yeah,
10.
they protect them, and honestly, I don't think that they go after their own young, but they if another child comes by, well, yeah, I'll eat that. But the
Can
thing
they
is,
smell their own? You think? Do they
no,
tell which ones are
I
theirs?
don't, I don't know. I have not seen research on them doing parental cannibalism, but generally, the thing is, the young do have a method to avoid it, which is just rolling in the shit of their adults.
Yes.
So literally, the
Look at me,
Komodo
I
dragon
smell
doesn't
like
like its own shit. So the babies roll in it whenever they find adult Komodo shit. So then they avoid getting eaten by rolling in shit.
it's a little stealthy. I give them props for that. I mean, so
I
they
mean,
have these strategies,
a
yeah,
system.
kind of to like
It's a
knock,
system.
you know.
Which, if you've ever smelled a carnivorous reptile's shit, if you own
Oh Lord.
snakes or oh my
Oh
god,
my. Yeah. Yeah.
it is.
Um.
That's a thing. That is a thing. Well, and
So
this
yeah.
thing gets rotten going in.
Yeah. It's a lot
Oh,
rotten going in because they'll
now
eat, and that's a lot of rotten going in.
yeah, because they eat like what, 80% of their body weight?
80% of their body weight they can
So
eat in
they're
one sitting.
150 pounds ish. So they're eating
Oh,
what?
good God.
120 pounds of shit
You
at
know
a
what? I,
sitting.
I have to admit, I'd try and eat 120 pounds of tacos
I
in
have
one sitting.
tried,
I'd
I've
try.
eaten a lot of meat, especially my teenage days or when I was doing martial arts and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm hungry all the time. But
So
oh,
yeah,
I would feel
they'll
horrible.
gorge themselves sick, like
Yeah.
80% of their body weight they'll eat, and then they don't need to eat for like another month.
Yeah,
You know?
they don't they have actually a very low metabolic rate, and there's reasons for that, which we'll probably touch on in a bit.
They
But
do, but then there's other reasons that they're cool metabolic rate too.
yeah,
They
well, that's what I mean.
they've
They
got
have a
a
low
yeah.
metabolic rate, yeah, but
Overall, yeah.
for all the other stuff. But also because they eat and gorge so much, if they do get scared,
It's great. It's great.
they
They
just
purge,
vomit it all up so that they weigh less and start running. I
which
mean,
is absolutely amazing because, like, you know what? I'm not going near that. If it pukes on me, fuck, done. No.
I have been puked on by a turkey vulture because that's their defense mechanism.
Well, I'm also thinking
Oh
about
my god! I burned all the clothes that day. It was just dead to me.
I'm also thinking about think about the weight. Think about getting hit with 100 pounds
Well,
of
I don't think
rotting, half
it's not coming. It
digested
doesn't come
meat.
out like that. I've seen it come out of a Komodo dragon, but it doesn't come out launching. It just. But if something wants that meat, it can
There
have
was
it, I
an
guess.
interesting there was a physics professor who apparently did what would happen if a brontosaurus threw up, and the amount plus the height basically would kill a human when it hit
Oh,
the
yeah.
ground.
That's
It was brutal.
100%.
Look it up. It's hilarious. But yeah, so they will just vomit this up. They also vomit up what I thought was
Save
interesting.
that
I
for
didn't know they did this. They do the pellets. So
Yep,
they'll eat the whole animal, the hooves, the
yep.
bones, the digestive, every hair. They don't give a
They
crap.
digest almost every little bit of it.
Mhm. So they can unhinge the lower jaw kind of.
Yep.
It's
I knew a
yeah.
few girls in college that could do that.
Oh,
Oh, my.
what makes the jaw unusually wide? Can't imagine when you would have needed that, but
Hey!
um and their stomach expands really rapidly so they can get all that in there. Um but then because they're eating all these parts, they don't necessarily poop it out. They're like owls where they'll puke up these little pellets full of
Pellets, yep.
undigestible stuff.
Yeah,
So
kind of more calcium clumps.
yeah, it's pretty gross. I'm not sure which is even more gross, a gastric pellet or the whole thing's gross.
Everything's gross. The vomit is
Um,
gross. If you've ever smelled a scavenger's vomit, whoa!
yeah,
It
yeah. Well,
was horrible.
especially so we kind of touched on they're notorious grave robbers.
Yep,
So the humans in the area will either pile stones on their graves or they have to dig the graves for their people very, very deep because these guys will go after corpses that have been dead for weeks and they'll dig them up.
yep.
I
'Cause they
remember
want
I remember some wild dogs or foxes doing that with my guinea pigs back in the day, and it was quite disturbing.
yeah.
You
I
find
mean,
this
yeah.
swath of fabric and you follow it, and it's not fun.
The reason we dig our graves so deep is because that will happen 100% if you don't dig it like 6 or 7 feet deep. Now, if you're wanting to be back in one with nature, then go ahead. Just give yourself a shallow grave. You'll be fine.
No, I'm going full sky burial. Full
Sky burial.
sky burial. Ooh.
I'm going Jack
Um,
in the Box, at least at the funeral.
oh,
I'm just
for
gonna have
a
the
second,
Jack
I
in
was
the
like,
Box song playing, and then just everyone just going, "Oh God, what's about to happen?" Just have a springboard pop me out.
yeah, right.
Ding. Doot, doot.
So,
Doot, 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 doot. What the hell?
that's okay. So, they'll eat anything, but you know what? And one of the cool things is, well, all right, we talked about they'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes they will eat children from neighboring
Yep. Humans are not
villages.
off the menu, and
They are not. They can sprint about 15 miles an hour
yep.
for a
Th-
short distance, but
But they can
humans,
maintain 11 pretty easily too.
oh, can they?
Yeah.
Humans, we ain't that fast. I mean, it's not like a horse that's going 30 miles an hour, but humans, we're fucking slow.
We're
So,
average about 8 miles per hour, so these guys
yeah,
can outrun us.
exactly. And then they leap and slam into you with that full
Mhm.
150, 200 pounds.
But that's
Um,
not how they kill you.
no, that's not. We'll get to that. But so what I thought was really quite interesting, different, is that the people who live near them have a great reverence for the Komodo dragons. And a lot of them, there was one father I watched an interview with him. His son had been eaten by a Komodo dragon, and he said that was his son's destiny. And
Yep.
he was still very sad about it. But a lot of the villagers actually believe that twins, one of them, if you're born with twins, one of you is a Komodo dragon.
Oh,
It was interesting. It was
okay.
they have such a great reference for these creatures. In fact, some of them were sacrificing goats and giving them to the Komodos. They were asked to stop doing that.
Right.
Kind of teaches them where the food is.
Yeah.
Um,
That's when you start getting like 15 of them showing up in an area.
right? Like, hello.
We come for the
They
free
love
meal.
goat. They love goat. It's stinky. They love eating goats. That is not normally on their menu either. Usually it's like deer and pigs and things.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a great idea. You know how we've got a wild boar problem in America in the southern states?
Release the Komodo dragons.
There we go. We got it.
Unfortunately, I think we have too harsh of winters.
Buy him some heating rocks.
I remember one video I was really happy about with it was a Komodo dragon and it caught a random squirrel in the tree. The squirrel It just jumped straight up, grabbed it out of the tree. And the thing that I loved was like the family actually like was the family's there. Like first they were all in shock, but then they turned it into a learning moment, which I love because I hate the Disneyification of nature. Like, oh, they're
Yeah.
all happy and go like, no, nature's
No.
scary. They're gonna eat you.
Scary as fuck. And a lot of times, if they catch you, you want them to kill you. The alternative is
Oh, these guys, yeah. So
Hmm.
they do one bite, but
Mhm.
they will do a couple of bites if they got them. And I saw one guy do a bites test on them. They have about a 600 pound per inch per
Which
square inch
is actually
bite.
not that strong.
It's actually
It's
for a
good,
lizard. It's very strong. It's about 10 times what a human can do,
but
which is
I'm thinking crocodile, and it's
crocodiles can do a bit more, obviously,
yeah,
but for such a small jaw, small headed creature, like most monitor lizards don't have that ratio.
that's
That
strength.
for the pounds per size is above average.
So let's jump right into the first myth we're gonna dispel. So everybody believes, well, not everybody, but a lot of people believe Komodo dragon will bite you and then follow you for days as you slowly die from the bacterial infection that they've
Okay.
laced into you from biting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That is true.
Um, kind of, but not.
Well, there's two parts to it. We thought it
So,
was just the
yeah.
bacteria.
But statistically, I read they have 52 disease causing pathogens in their mouths,
Yes.
which is not tremendously more than your standard carnivore.
Correct.
So they're kind of on par. Plus, actually, these guys will rub their
It's not,
faces on leaves and things to try and clean their mouths.
but
So
that's no. Okay, so this is a myth. That is the myth. Because
that they try and
basically,
clean their mouths.
no, that they have the cleaner
Oh
mouth.
no, they don't. They don't have clean mouths. But I'm not. I'm saying their mouths are not hugely grosser than any other
That's the
carnivore.
myth. That started back in 2010, 2015
Okay,
because
because that
people
was the
misread a
study
study.
I was referring to as a 2013 study.
Yeah.
Okay,
So they
so their
misread the
mouths are
study.
dirtier.
What it So yes, they don't have unique bacteria in their mouth, but the concentration levels are immense and they
Okay,
do have a lot of them.
okay,
So they do that. The thing is they also have another thing in their
which
mouth.
I love.
And the thing was most
Go
people,
ahead,
yeah.
go ahead.
So
This is
basically
something
people,
else that was also discovered fairly recently.
this one's more the recent thing, which is what caused the new myth
Mhm.
that that the bacteria didn't do anything, but it does. It definitely does something.
It does.
So they have what we would call a primitive venom system, which basically means they have a fang kind of thing. Fang. Let's not. I shouldn't even say fang. They don't have a fang. They just have they have a poison gland or venom gland,
Mhm.
and it comes out. It's not a full. There's the next
So
level.
fangs usually sink in and inject a
Yes,
venom.
ish.
They do not
So
inject.
correct. So there's a primitive fang. So these guys have the venom sac, but they don't have a fang to deliver it. Then there's a primitive fang system where basically it's just a groove in the tooth and the venom kind of gets in that way. So it still follows through. It doesn't inject per se, but it gets into the wound
Drips
easier.
in there.
Yeah. And then there's the
Mm.
full advanced fang, which is like literally a hypodermic needle type tooth that just makes sure it gets deep in there. So these guys have a primitive, which is also why it took forever for us to figure it out, because they have a primitive a venom gland, which is
Mhm.
basically just an altered salivary gland, and that does give a venom. However,
Which is a cool ass venom.
that
I
venom
like
does
it.
two things. It
I
actually it adds enrichment material that bacteria utilize to increase growth.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
So yes, the infection is high, which is why their mouth is
Okay,
full
alright.
of a higher concentration of all this stuff. Literally, their saliva is full of proteins that make the bacteria survive stronger and grow faster.
Which is interesting because their body also produce an antibacterial
Right.
peptide in
Which
their blood
yeah,
plasma.
we'll talk about
We'll go
that.
into that later, but
So,
it's like
but let's talk
They're
about
balancing out.
yeah, we'll talk about the venom first now. So the venom though is very nasty, which is also
I love
why
it. I
it
think
was
it's
also
awesome.
hard to discover because it wasn't one that's like it wasn't a hemorrhagic one where you just start bleeding out of everything. It wasn't a neurologic one or one that stops your heart or anything like that. It was one that just basically stops the clotting process. So I guess you could say it was a hemorrhagic a little bit, but basically you just
Well,
bled out because your
I
body
also read
stopped being
in
able to
certain
clot
species, it can cause muscle paralysis,
a little
and
bit. Yeah.
it starts to induce hypothermia.
Yes.
You know, it
And
also says it lowers blood pressure, but if you're bleeding out, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
duh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
does a
stops your
few different
body's
things.
automatic clotting factors from
Yep.
working so that, actually which, you know, vampire bats, I think they have something similar in their saliva that does
They
that.
have an anticoagulant in their saliva.
Yeah.
So do
So they
so
bite
do
you and
mosquitoes.
then, you know, you just start keep bleeding and
Yeah. So
bleeding
they do
and
still
bleeding.
follow you. They still follow you around. The thing is,
Mhm.
the bacteria definitely plays a part. So it's basically the venom and the bacteria working together, which is where the myth was. Because first we came up with this new discovery, and everyone's like, then all the old stuff that we know is out the window. And
Like,
that
yes,
wasn't the case. It's like, no,
no.
all the data from the old stuff's still there. But
Mhm.
now we got to do more research as to why, because it's such a weird system.
It is. And what happens in their mouth is actually pretty interesting. They've about 60 teeth, which is really
Yeah.
high for a rep or a lizard, excuse me. Most lizards don't have that many teeth. And they're serrated and shark-like.
Right.
But their gums are really, really thick. So if you look at pictures of them, they look kind of like they've got like gummy mouth. They don't really
Yep.
look like they've got a lot of teeth. But the teeth are so sharp that they'll slice through their own gums a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're bleeding. I saw a couple images of them with
It's
this
nasty.
frothy red because
Yep.
it's their own blood,
Yeah. And
from these
it's not like they're
wicked teeth
always
they
like
have.
cutting their own mouth. Usually it happens when they get excited, so they like grab onto something and, and then they cut
Oh, yeah,
themselves.
that's what happens to me when I get excited too. I just bite the shit just
I
bite
got
the
to the
hell out of my
steakhouse
own
and then
mouth.
I just bit my tongue.
Exactly. So, seeing one of these, like, trying to bite you, I mean, I'm gonna put that up in a nightmare. Hell yes.
Yes. And then
Slammed into, then bitten, and then they're, you know, they'll lay
yeah.
on you if they get the
And
chance. They do have claws. When they're younger, they
yeah.
can climb, but they don't climb when they're older just 'cause they're just such big fat
Oh
asses.
well, actually that's not true.
They do climb when they're
They
older?
do climb when they're older. It's just not
But
as
not when they've
fun.
eaten 80% of their body
No,
weight.
no, no,
They're
no,
usually
no.
just looking for a puddle to
Now,
lay in, like,
actually, so there
"Ah."
is a cryptid, and there is theorized
Oh,
that it's
good, our
Komodo
facts are
dragon.
gonna come from a cryptid, that's great. Oh,
It's
wait,
it's
we're using your definition of cryptid, never mind, sorry.
well,
I repeal my mockery,
it's called a tree crocodile, and it's in the general region-ish location of the world.
which means a
And
Komodo dragon has eaten one.
well, no, what they think actually is the tree crocodile. The biologists are listening to the stories of the locals, and it's really sounding not so much like a tree crocodile, but a tree monitor lizard about the size of a
Hmm.
Komodo dragon.
Oh.
So it might
Keeps
have been
himself a
on
little
other
bit
islands,
leaner.
and it could either be a subspecies or a whole nother species, or it could just be Komodo dragons that gained a habit of climbing trees and jumping on
I
their
mean, they
prey.
are ambush predators, and you get an idea like, "Hey,
Yeah. So
I can ambush in 3 dimensions? Woo!"
yeah. So we can easily
And we thought the drop bear was scary.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. So there is a theory that the
yeah, I'm
legend
kind of
of the
picturing a
tree crocodile.
Wolverine type-ass creature because 'cause it's got the big claws like,
Yeah. So and they can climb, and trust me, yeah. Oh man, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
yeah,
But we
so, yeah, so they'll rake you and rip you up pretty good too, and they've kinda got armor, which is a really cool thing, um, not specific to Komodo dragons,
right.
monitor lizards,
Now,
yes, kinda,
before we get into
um
that, let's go back to that
oh,
one thing you were talking about because you were talking about the peptids because we were talking about the venom and all
yes.
that. Go ahead
So
on
with
that.
all this slashing of their own gums and things, they can infect themselves with these huge
Not
colonies of
only that,
bacteria.
there's
Er
also interspecies fighting.
yes.
So if
They
they're
they they
fighting over
beat each other
territory or
up.
food, they slash each other up quite a bit, but they don't die from the stuff.
Yes. So, So they have, was
Intra.
it? All right. I'm trying to get this right. So they have these peptides in their blood plasma that are highly antibacterial. I got a whole bunch of different, DRGN1, and it was tested. Anyway, what they found, scientists once again finding phenomenal, cool stuff from
Yes.
nature. So bacterial strains and even some fungi strains that have become bacterial resistant, um, still die from these antibacterial peptides from the Komodo dragons, which it's really cool. And not only that, but it also, these peptides promote wound healing
Yep.
too. So it's almost kind of like, not quite regenerative, but they mix and they create like a biofilm over the infected wound that gives it an ability to heal
And
much better.
they're talking about using these if that once they can extract it. They've injected them in mice, and so far the mice are doing fine. With the
Next, they're
injection.
going to throw the mice in with the Komodo dragons. No, just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's how it's circle of research and life.
There's
um,
a
the
scientist doing fucked up shit.
yeah, so the mice did well, but basically what they were testing it against was MRSA specifically, which
Remind us all, MRSA.
oh god, now it stands for multicoccus MRSA infection. Yeah, there it is. I always have to look this up because the name is
Mhm.
it's methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Yeah, it's basically just antibiotic resistant bacteria. My uncle actually just died of a MRSA infection 4 months ago. 3 months ago, 4 months
Thoughts
ago.
and prayers. I'm sorry.
But basically, it's just an infection that we use so much antibiotics in the world around us that these things become resistant, and then you have to use harsher and harsher stuff. But this, if we can use this peptide, it could potentially,
It's a real game changer.
yeah, it could potentially fix that. And I even heard that they were talking about having just regular band-aids kind of coated with this
Oh, that's kind of
peptide.
fun.
And then, which, as you said, it helps the healing process. So then
Mhm.
prevents infection, helps the healing process quite a bit in that method. But yeah, they have
That's
this
pretty
weird,
awesome.
yeah,
So let's stop maybe some of the wreaking of destruction on our habitat and 40% of these awesome creatures that might help
oh,
us defeat Darwinism.
yeah, and they did something has started up on the lately that they did not have reported before for their loss of populations as well.
Okay, okay, we'll go. So
Pet and
anyways,
zoo trade,
what was wait.
pet and zoo trade. People
Oh,
are
yeah,
taking them out of nature
which
now
which
to
is just fucking weird. In fact, actually, so the Komodo sanctuary
Komodo.
shut down. Komodo. Ah! It shut down for, I think it just opened up again in 2023. It shut down in, like, 2016
Yep.
because they have their main source of money is tourists. You can go in, the keepers will, have some of these Komodo dragons who are fairly tamish,
Hmm.
enough to be poked away with, like, really big sticks.
Right.
But you can watch them get fed and all this other stuff. It's really, really cool. But they had to shut down because with the tourists, poachers were coming in and poaching either the animals that the Komodos eat
Yep.
or the actual dragons themselves because, oh God, guess what?
Don't
Guess
tell
what?
me this helps people's dicks too.
It does!
God
It
damn it.
does. It is part of
How can
traditional
we stop?
medicine, bringing us
When will we
to
pick an animal that doesn't help a person's dick somewhere in the world?
we found
Supposedly.
two out of 8. But, yeah, so apparently Komodo dragons, that dual dick, I don't know what part it is, but yes, it can kinda be considered a weird delicacy. There was a movie, it was a delicacy, I think called The Freshman or something. The mafia wanted to eat a Komodo dragon.
I
Um,
I'm not
yeah.
impressed with any reptile that I've eaten.
Yeah, neither am I. Trust me,
Yeah.
don't eat carnivores. Don't eat carnivores. Meat sucks, just hands down.
And it also changes
Um,
your carbon pattern in your body.
yeah.
You
So
literally jump
anyway,
up.
so they had to shut down the sanctuary, but the locals asked for it to be reopened because the tourist money was really helping their communities.
Yep.
So they updated security and they did a bunch of other stuff, and yeah. So you can now go back to the Komodo Islands and,
But they had to spend a bunch more money on bullshit to stop assholes.
Yeah, dickwads.
Yeah.
Knock that shit off. So anyway, so the Komodo, let's say they jump on you and they bite you and you get away somehow. Not quite sure how, but you managed to get away. Now they're going to start tracking you. Yep. Now, I guess a lot of ambush predators do have good vision. They've got exceptionally good vision though.
Yep.
They can see 985 feet away. Which I was like,
that's not how they
how?
You, generally.
I want to know how that was fun. Can you read the letter A? Can you read the top of the chart now? How about now?
Honestly, it's just through dissection and guessing. And actually, also you can put something out there and see if they react to it.
Oh, that's true. And they only have cones in their eyes. They don't have rods.
Right.
Now, so that means they probably have some color vision.
Yeah.
That also helps the sharpness of the vision, but it means that they don't have really good vision in dim lights.
Yep.
So, that kind of sucks for them. But they can see really well. They don't really have as good a hearing as like we think of ourselves as kind of like the median. They don't really hear very high pitched things or very low pitched things.
Yeah, so they couldn't hear you screaming if you were like, ah!
Yeah, they don't care anyway.
No,
they don't care. They're like,
No, they don't hear it.
But the fun part, the best, oh, go ahead.
The thing that kills you can't hear you scream.
Yeah, can't hear you scream. Doesn't give a shit. Why me? Doesn't hear you. It's like whatever. Yeah. But the cool part I thought was their tracking ability based on smell.
Yep.
They have a great sense of smell. Yeah. So if you aren't freaked out enough by the foaming red mouth teeming with bacteria, the long yellow forked tongue might fuck you up.
Mm-hmm.
Just now, I can't believe I did not know why reptiles had forked tongues.
They have a Jacobson's organ.
They do.
Yes.
Well, of course he knows that. Whitney, would you like to tell us what the Jacobson's organ is?
They have a nostril and nose as well, but like snakes and all those things that have the forked tongue, what they do is they actually catch the very scant particulates in the air. That's why it waves around to make.
That's why they're flicking it.
So
they're like,
they flick it.
They're smelling
and increases the chances that a particle hits it, and then they pull their tongue in, and then they have two holes. It's like having nostrils on the upper.
Way up in your mouth.
Way up on the palate at the top of your mouth. And there's two holes, and they put those two prongs into there. And the reason they have to have two is
this is the coolest part.
Well, anything that has two, it's always for a reason. It's to determine direction. So we have our ears on the left and right of us, so that way, because it's going to take a half second longer to get to the other ear. Mm-hmm. So then our brain goes, oh, it's to the right, or it's slightly louder. It's to the right.
Imagine your nose doing that. Imagine smelling like there's popcorn to my left.
But the thing is, based on the difference in the concentration levels, it's not just it's to the left. It's 60 degrees from center.
Okay,
like that direction. Like they can tell.
They're really good at it.
Really good at it. Like people are like, I always joke that like people are like, oh, dogs are great. I'm like, if we could teach snakes and reptiles to find smells, that's in even a whole other
if we
level.
Could teach them, they can find them. If we could teach them to tell us, if communicate.
We'll teach them to care. Yeah, they're like, I don't care about that. That's not meat.
I don't know if you mix it with enough cocaine.
There is a group that I follow sometimes, Reptelligence, and they do a lot of enrichment and studies and training for reptiles. And they use smells. They find out the favorite smell of the snake and use that to train it to do.
So this would be rotting meat. For a Komodo dragon. They can smell 2.5 miles off. So you know sharks can smell blood a mile away. Yeah, fuck you. Komodo dragon, 2.5 miles away, rotting corpse. That away.
And it's through air, which is a tougher fluid to
lunch babies. Yep. So they're like flicking their tongue, like, dude. I thought that was so cool, is how directional they can go based on smell. It was amazing.
Yeah, anything with a forked tongue doing that. That's what they're doing to you. They know exactly where you're at, just by smelling. We didn't even touch on my two favorite facts on them yet.
We haven't gotten to the penis yet. I know.
I don't want to talk about the penis. Stop talking about dicks.
Okay, they barely touched on one of the penises.
Well, my favorite thing about them, and I always joke, like people are like, "Oh no, what's going to take over after humans go away?" And everybody thinks about like the opposable thumbs and all that. I'm like, it's going to be Komodo dragons because they're bipedal and they have opposable thumbs.
Oh, you know what? Okay, go.
So they normally aren't bipedal. Normally they're going on all fours, but they do sometimes mate and fight while standing up. Mostly fighting.
Not the fucking though.
The fucking is sometimes done that way, but mostly it's done laying down on each other.
Hey, I
don't tell me how many
I did a very romantic view of Komodo dragon mating where the female acknowledges the male, finds him enticing, and lifts her tail provocatively.
Yes.
Yeah, let me tell you, I found a dark part of the internet where they were doing Komodo dragon softcore erotica.
Yes.
Yeah.
But to signal each other, because usually what they're doing is they're hiding in wait in the tall grasses or whatever, or on the ground, but then they'll stand up to like be seen, or they'll fight that way, and which is scary.
So they'll go by people to be seen and like use their thumb to like wave hello.
Two male Komodos fighting over a female. That is scary, man. That's a frightening thing. But
it's like two giant sumo wrestlers with fangs.
Something
and like really long nails. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. So
the thumbs, anyway, the thumbs. Come on.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about them is they technically can walk bipedally if they so choose
and hitchhike.
And hitchhike because they got the thumb, which helps them with climbing, basically.
Which is awesome. I don't know. I'm still kind of like these antibacterial peptides and still kind of loving.
Oh, that is the coolest thing. They have so many weird traits.
They do have so many cool things.
Yeah.
Which is probably why they're still alive today, Other awesome, incredible thing. I know this is also something that's not incredibly unique for reptiles. They have a 3-chambered heart.
Yes.
So,
crocodilians, larger and more advanced reptiles. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So they've got the 2 ventricle or the 2 atrium.
Don't realize most
and 1 big ventricle.
2 chambers instead of 3. Sorry. Describe it again.
They've got the 2 atrium on top.
Yep.
And they've got 1 giant ventricle.
Correct.
So the ventricle pumps. It is a circulatory system similar to ours. It pumps to lungs for oxygen and back, and then around the body to nutrient and back.
Right.
I just thought that was really cool. And I might go into mitochondria again. So they're capable.
Before you bump onto that, I want to talk. So ours has 4 separate chambers, so that way there's never mixing of the blood, so it all goes the correct way. So the oxygenated blood,
look at you judging.
Go into the place where it needs to get unoxygenated, go into the lungs where it needs to get oxygenated, blah blah blah. The thing is, you'd think that ventricle would like be it isn't super efficient. But you'd think it'd be a 50-50 ratio, right? Half of it going the wrong way.
Kind of, yeah, okay.
But every time we look at this, like even when it's a 2-chambered heart, 70 to 80 and even 90% of it is going the correct direction still. So somehow the heart in these animals tells the oxygenated and unoxygenated blood which valve it's supposed to go through.
Well, I read they have incredible folds inside the ventricles that help. And I'm trying to rack my fluid dynamics brain.
Right? Yeah. Every time I hear about it, I'm like
if it's coming from this atria, does it like get collapsed into the fold? Does it
guiding it mostly
out
into the right direction?
Yeah,
and there must also be a protein or enzyme effect keeping it from like wanting it to go the right way.
Yeah,
all the path.
I don't know what it is. It's we'll go into it again. I think more.
Yeah, we'll probably hit this again. This happens a lot, but that always blew my mind. Like even when you have these, we're just going to mix it all in and then push it out, and there's 2 ways for it to go out.
But it's
Oh, but it's still
70% of
going
the
the
time it's
right
going out
way.
the right way.
It's not 50-50. It's going 90% correct.
Which is pretty awesome.
That's weird. Anyway.
Yeah. So okay, that's awesome. So reptiles typically are not the best at aerobic activity.
Mhm.
You know, they're not the best. I'm sorry, mammals were better at it.
That's why mammals generally outcompete in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
But researchers are looking at a genetic adaptation in the Komodo dragon. They were sequencing the genome, like we do nowadays.
Yes.
And they're showing that because of their mitochondria, they can achieve a metabolism like a mammal. Which is, gives them that ability to sprint for longer distances and
Yep.
move at those
Run.
speeds.
Mhm.
So I couldn't. Okay, so it was on PubMed was where I found the
Right.
article about it. It was a fairly new article, and it was so technical. I have to admit that I didn't grasp
Right.
it
Which is,
entirely.
and the thing is also when you read some of those, like that's only one small, like you get a
Mhm.
couple puzzle pieces together and you're like, oh, it's out, which is where a lot of people like the news articles, they like talk about something like, oh, this brand new thing that, and they kind of go, and it's like, well, no, that's just a piece of you got to add the other pieces around it.
Yeah,
And then
and I don't have the rest of the pieces, but it has to do with their mitochondria,
yeah.
and they're finding it out. We'll keep you updated.
Yeah.
Let you
Well, and the thing is, like, it's the mitochondrial studies like that, we don't know exactly what any of that means 100% of the time because we know.
Does everyone know that you have different DNA in your mitochondria than you do in the rest of the nucleus of the cell?
Yeah, wait, what? There was a video
We'll
game.
we'll we'll have to do that. So you have your main streams of DNA in your nucleus of your cell, but your mitochondria have their own DNA.
That was it.
And that's why when you're born, you have the mitochondria of your mother, not a combination of your parents
Actually,
together. Your
they
grandmother.
now found out that there's more mitochondria given from the male than they had
Oh, yes.
originally previously thought.
Okay.
It's
All
still
right.
like 80%, 90% your mom, but there is still some.
So that's why when you read research papers and stuff and they
Yeah.
talk about mitochondrial DNA, they're going through the matriarchal
Yeah,
line
basically,
typically.
yeah.
Um
So if you
just
see M,
we'll do probably a whole
it'll
episode on
say
it
like a
'cause
little
it's
M and then it'll say DNA. Honestly, back in the day, that was the only real way to do those. Like, what is that?
so yeah, when you see the little M, then the capital D, the capital N, the capital A, that means mitochondrial.
Mitochondrial DNA, which is only the
Yes.
maternal line.
Yes,
And
yes.
actually, yeah, if you play the video game from 1998, Parasite Eve, they have a fantastic lesson
Oh, I love
of
Parasite Eve.
mitochondria.
That was great.
That was
And then
the main villain of the whole video game is new mitochondria, basically.
yeah, and then it kinda tries to turn into what you'd think one would look like, and
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
like, what the hell is
"That's
going on?
really red
This is
and"
the best biology lesson ever.
I've never had to fight a mitochondria
We were
before,
fighting
directly,
mitochondria
indirectly, sure, but
because it's better, and now it has so much energy you can shoot lasers.
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 Lasers. So, yeah, so anyway, the Komodo dragon back to you want me to read you the Komodo dragon erotica I found?
Oh dear God.
Let me let you okay, we'll wrap it up on this one, not you know
What
what I mean.
does it have the hemipene in it? The multi-penis.
We'll go into that. Oh, you know what we didn't go into yet? We're
What did
gonna
we
have
not
to
go
do
into?
it.
What is it?
The virgin birth.
Oh, parthenogenesis. Yes.
Yeah, we'll go into that. But first, here, okay, I gotcha. Okay, so they talk about the males fighting, and then the successful male will approach the female, his head slowly twitching from side to side, and he will follow her as she walks slowly away, leading him to a good spot to mate.
You guys on the podcast audio stuff don't see me doing my little
He's
strut.
doing his sexy. Then she'll stop walking, and the male will put his leg over the base of her tail and stroke her tail base in a guitar strumming motion.
Oh,
This will entice her to lift the base of her tail so he can insert one of his two penises.
the other one's
He will
already.
then begin mating. They'll mate several times during this session, taking short rests and they'll continue to do so, switching and alternating penises. Yeah, so someone spent part of their day one day writing that. I kind of appreciate the Komodo Dragon sounding a little sensual as he guitar strum
I
and
mean,
skirt
having
tail.
2 dicks really fixes the refractory period. For those that don't know, the refractory period is the time from whence you come to whence you can rise again.
Oh, rise again. You know what I didn't look up, and I can't believe I didn't look this up today? Is each penis have its own testicle?
No,
They share?
they share. If I
So it's kind of a
recall. Actually, you
crisscross?
know what? I'm gonna have to do research into that. I believe they
Right?
share, but I'm gonna have to do research into that because
They
that
might
would also
have they
make
might
sense.
share, they might
Oh, we're gonna have to look that up.
So yeah, so that's
Hemmington.
usually that's apparently that's what their mating is. It sounds much nicer than some of them.
Yeah.
And then the female goes on to lay about 24 eggs. Do that about once a year. We kind of went through their life cycle and everything of how they're doing that. Yeah.
I've never
But
actually read one way or the other on that. You asked the question, and I have never thought about.
yes, woohoo! I asked the animal expert the thing he's never.
Is it one testy? Okay. I'm pretty sure it's 2, and then they go down a canal.
That's an interesting crisscross you have to go through. Like, why would you crisscross back and forth? Why not just one testy per penis?
Because reasons.
Yeah, you don't have a good answer. Okay. Look it up. We'll update you at the beginning of the next episode.
If we remember. We're kind of a stream of consciousness style.
But we talked about the virgin birth. This is something amazing Komodo dragons do. They're not totally unique in the lizard world.
Oh, no. They're far from unique on this. Sharks do it. Lots of fish do it. Mammals are really the only ones that are really rare that don't. Mammals and birds.
How dare we not?
Yeah.
How dare we're just
there's actually an entire species of lizard, all lesbians. Parthenogenesis, virgin birth.
Parthenogenesis. Now, parthenogenesis is not just a clone. These females, these virgin births, these females are not just making a clone of themselves. They're not doing that, which is
I always forget. Meiosis, mitosis. Meiosis, mitosis. Which one is the cellular divide and which one is the gonadal divide?
One is where the cell divides, the other is the cell divides, and then the DNA divides.
I'm pretty sure meiosis is the gonadal one. Yes, meiosis is gonadal, so that's sperm and egg. But yes.
Well, and we kind of, I don't know if we have time for this, to dispel common myths about this in reptiles anyway. Reptiles, yes, there is an XY chromosome. Yes, there is a female and a male chromosome.
There's a female and male chromosome, but it's not XY.
W.
And Z.
We do a W. WZ.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
Maybe. Depends on
it's W and Z.
Depends on which reptile you're talking about, because they all
Biologists label the Komodo dragons sex chromosomes W and Z.
Correct.
ZZ making a male and WZ making a female.
Correct.
Humans are XX is a female, XY is a male.
Yes.
So the female of the species in this case carries all the DNA to make both sexes. As to where humans, if I were to do parthenogenesis, I do not have the DNA to make a male.
Actually, incorrect.
By myself?
Yes.
I don't have a Y chromosome.
It's all on the X. The thing is the Y turns it off.
Oh, okay.
Y tells things to turn off. And to switch gears.
You're completely right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so their eggs can contain either Y or Z.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah. I believe it's WZ for them. The thing is, snakes, actually, I was just reading a study about it, and they were talking about the Z's and all that. And technically, the chromosomes that are used for snakes and these guys are different. They were actually looking at it to see where the division and the evolutionary kind of split off was using the sex chromosomes. because it's just a very interesting thing looking into sex chromosomes. Maybe we'll talk about that, the extinction of the male chromosome in
Yeah.
humans someday.
So
That's a
basically
fun
what
topic.
happens is so each of the cells ends up with a single chromosome, sex
Right.
chromosome. Then they combine to create the child.
Right.
Um, so they can end up with any combination of WW, WZ,
WZ.
or ZZ. However, in these creatures, a WW are not viable. So that would be kind of like a think of it kind of like for humans a YY egg. It's
Yep.
not viable. So you're going to lose pretty much 25% right there. But at the same time though, there's a great deal of mixing that can
Yes.
happen with those
The cross-linking.
combinations.
So what people don't realize is during that whole mitosis process, like the two chromosomes usually split. They don't just split. They like the DNA all mixes together and then it splits.
Mhm.
Um, as much as possible. And in species that do parthenogenesis or have a lot of inbreeding, such as like cattle and things of that nature, they actually have increased rates of cross-linking. So therefore, before they even make the gametes, their genes are all mixed up way more than other species
Exactly.
to help
So
prevent all that those issues.
anything the female has, she can give to her offspring in millions of combinations.
Correct. Yeah. It's and which helps with and then there's even a whole species of lizard, as I said, that are I joke that they're all lesbians because there are no males. They just give birth. They just decide to have an egg. But the fun part is they still have historically or evolutionarily they were two sex species at one point in time,
Mm.
so they still have the drive to fuck. So they two will meet, they do the fucking, they start scissoring.
Scissoring. Oh my god.
and then and then they go their separate ways. Lizard scissoring.
Lizards, so they could
Look it up,
exchange
but
some. Do they
actually, yeah, look it
exchange
up on your work
material in
computer.
there? Okay.
Lizard scissoring. Look it up on your work.
Lizard, I'll do that. Now,
Yeah.
the reason for this, at least with the Komodo dragons, the reasons for this is very, very obvious. They can swim incredibly well, and they'll swim between islands.
Yep.
So it's
Amazing.
very easy for one of them to get isolated.
Yep.
So if a female gets isolated,
Yep.
she can just make more friends.
Now,
You don't need a
I
male.
mentioned
Fuck
earlier
that.
there was that sex ratio issue they're having right now, 60% male, which that
Yes.
could also be because a lot of reptiles are temperature dependent for what they can
Very,
become,
very much so. So they bury their eggs in the sand to try and find a
which
stable temperature and
mhm,
humidity. However, they're finding this in a lot of reptiles right now. Sea turtles, it's
reptiles, fish, and
incredibly
amphibians.
problematic. The genes are turned on and off based on temperature.
Yep.
So I think it's the eggs in the outer side of
And
the
we're talking
clutch.
like
So
a few degrees average
yeah, yeah, it
changes.
could be like 33, 34 degrees Celsius, you've got a female.
Well,
Slightly cooler,
well,
you've got a male.
let's change that a little bit because it's
Okay,
not the female. It's the ratio in the batch of eggs shifts. So if
okay,
you change it 1 degree one way, you might end up with it might have been 50-50 normally. That's what the goal is.
the
And then
goal,
you
yeah.
switch it 1 degree one way, now you're up to 60-40 male to female. Then you switch it another degree, now you're up to 70-30 and eighty
And it
twenty,
can switch both
or
ways.
the
So it
other
could be
way. Yep.
70%
Or but
female, 30.
usually it's drop a temperature and it goes one way, raise a temperature, it goes the other. And it has to
Usually
do with
it,
the
it seems to
denaturing of
be
the protein.
raising the temperature shifts toward the male.
Male. Yep.
So in a lot of
Which
these areas
not
where,
viable
sea
for
turtles are laying eggs, reptiles are laying eggs, most of these are getting warmer. So this shift is causing more males to be born.
which is not good for long-term species survival.
Yeah,
But once again, climate
definitely.
change
Yeah,
is
keep
the
fucking
problem,
around, guys. Yeah. So anyway, that's another cool thing. There's actually a few more cool things about the Komodo dragon. But it's been over an hour and you guys probably aren't listening anymore anyway.
well, maybe
Anybody?
maybe another
Anybody?
time.
Anybody?
All right, we'll catch up on
So
the
we
next
talked about the armor a little bit, but we didn't. We'll go into that with other monitor
other
species
reptiles
have the
and
armor
monitor.
too.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
because
basically they're just developing bone under their scales. That's like
awesome,
it's just kind of
awesome.
boss. It's just
Yeah.
something I want. I kind of want that. Oh. So I read. Okay, this keeper was talking about kind of was going into the badassness of the Komodo dragon,
Uh-huh.
and a full size male Komodo dragon tried to ambush at a watering hole a water buffalo.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, it failed.
Yeah.
They do sometimes succeed, but it failed, and the water buffalo headbutted it and flipped it, like in the air, flipped it off of it,
Right.
and it landed among
I guess
some
pretty much
rocks on its back, and
Yeah.
it got knocked out. And they kept tabs on it. You know, they're not interfering, but they kept tabs on it for 3 days. This Komodo dragon laid there stunned. Then it woke up, flipped over, went on its way, found another lunch.
Fuck. That was a good nap, but I'm hungry now.
Yeah, like, fuck, what happened? But I don't
We
know
hear the name of that train.
that can be out for 3 days, like their brain just out for 3 days and be like, oh, yeah, I'm back. How's it going? Lunch?
Yes.
It's yeah. Yeah. So also being optimist what is it when something comes your way and you just take the opportunity?
Optimistic.
Opportunistic. Opportunistic carnivores. That guy's lucky his friends weren't around.
Yes.
It's just like,
oh yeah, the Komodo Dragons would be like, "You hungry, Bob? Yeah, he's all right. Yeah.
Larry's just lying here.
Yep. All right.
He's alive, but I mean, Larry, fight back if you don't want to be lunch.
Right. Fight back.
He's not. I think Larry's tired.
We might consider stopping.
We're just gonna take a nibble and see. You promised us water buffalo for lunch, and you just. I don't know why Komodo dragons for my need
Suddenly
to have
became Southerners. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in our mind right there because I said the word Bob. Bob.
Bob.
Bob.
And Bob's obviously Southern. I don't know.
Obviously.
But yeah, so the Komodo dragon is a fantastic creature. You know, we can learn once again so much from them.
Awesome.
I actually got to be about 6 feet away from one, and it was kind of a Zen-like experience.
Worked in Disney Animal Kingdom, and they have Komodos there, and
they do.
Yeah, and they it was funny because apparently some of the maintenance workers did not tell the keepers that they were decided to go into their yard to do some maintenance. So the keepers let them out and then started screaming at them because the Komodos knew they were out there. The keepers didn't know.
The Komodo could smell them 2 miles away.
Yeah. So they went into instant hunt mode and like went down, and all they could see was the shifting of the grass as they charged the guys. The guys had to climb out. Like
I'm scared.
They booked it out, and they climbed out. There's the.
It's a good thing they moved when they first saw it, because otherwise they would have got caught.
Leapt up and tried to bite the ankle of one of the guys on his way out, but like, luckily they barely got out.
Is there Komodo dragon anti-venom?
And there was 2 or 3 Komodos, so they were on a fuck. And they were all after these guys. They're like, we're eating good today.
Yeah, and serpentining doesn't work against these guys if you're running away.
Yeah,
now they're just hopping around a tree. That's only kangaroos.
That works for the hoppy guys like kangaroos. No.
Yeah, no, none of these guys.
They're calm and they're fed well, like, and they know you're there. Like the keepers can go in with them a lot of the time, and it's fine.
Well, that's what the well-fed ones on the island for the tourists. They've just got like long sticks.
Yeah, but also push them away. Like, any animal,
they're mostly fed.
Changing the scenario that it normally lives in, it's going to get excited, and they go out on hunger. They're like, "We're hunting today." We haven't hunted for a while.
Oh my gosh, I forgot to share my number one thing about the Komodo dragons.
Which was that?
I read this. As I'm researching, I did look at those sites where it talks about, the 20 top fascinating facts about the Komodo dragon. Oh, the top 10 most interesting facts. Every single one of these motherfucking websites, number one, Komodo dragons are not dragons. Well, no fucking shit balls.
God damn it. Yeah.
So Komodo dragons, everyone, guess what? They're not dragons.
Your bearded dragon's not a dragon.
It's like It was the number one fact all over the place. I was like, they're not dragon. No, fucking.
We'll have to do the actual flying lizard at some point in time.
We will definitely have to do a real flying lizard. That, guess what? Isn't a dragon.
Not a dragon still. But I think that should be it for this week, though.
That is. It's been a wonderful time. I always enjoy our time together, Whitney, talking about crazy bipenal creatures.
Hemipenises.
I think it should be bipenal. Why is it hemi? And I mean half a penis. Dual hemipeni? That's a no. I'm bipenal.
Well, bipenal. I think I've met a few guys in college that were bipenal.
It rolls off the tongue. Well, then don't hang out in those bathrooms, Whitney. Come on.
Wrong. Oh, I went to the wrong bar this weekend. Or the right one.
I would never suggest anything bad about anyone's life choices.
Nope.
I don't have to be involved, but you do you. So yeah, as always, write in your questions, comments. When enough of you love us, because not enough of you do yet, but when enough of you love us, we will do like an entire episode on just your dumbass questions.
Yes. That'd be great.
And our own dumbass questions. Like, I bet in 45 minutes, I'm going to get a text from Whitney about testicular connections to penises.
Yeah, and also I'm going to start looking up the hemi versus bi, like where the difference of that Latin, Greek.
Because he's technically right. I did read quite a few that said hemi. Which I will throw my gauntlet down. This is the hill, apparently, I'm prepared to die on.
It should be a bi penis. A bi penis.
I mean, they do have a full penis. I'll go with the kangaroo. That's a hemi penis. Because it doesn't function without the other one. This one, though, they can slip it out the cloaca.
That's just one penis with two little things on the end.
That, I would say, is a hemi penis. Each one of those. As to where Komodo Dragon, I will respect their right to be bipenal. Oh God, he's typing. Shit. All right. Until next time, we love you all. Mwah! And hope you had fun. Hope we made you laugh. And in my closing words, as always, no gods, no mast.